Let's bring in MSNBC's Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, MSNBC political contributor and Atlantic staff writer Mark Leibovich, and MSNBC legal analyst and former Manhattan Assistant DA Catherine Christian. Ken, are you hearing any pushback or concerns from inside the DOJ?
Well, yes, of course, Anna, and it's consistent with what I've been hearing from sources inside the building almost since the beginning of the Trump administration, because, again, I keep saying this, we've never been here before. Even in the first Trump administration, the Justice Department ran like a normal Justice Department, where it respected the rule of law, it respected the decisions of career prosecutors. The White House did not tell it, for the most part, what to investigate or what not to investigate. That is all out the window now. And so the people that have done business the same way for 30 years, some of them have been there, although many of those people are leaving, are traumatized by this. Not just concerned, they're absolutely traumatized by what's been happening at the Justice Department, not only on criminal cases, but on all sorts of cases, antitrust cases, corporate monitor cases, the lack of enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. But in this particular case, the idea that the White House would order the Justice Department to prosecute certain individuals goes against 50 years of the post-Watergate tradition of the Justice Department being independent of politics, and it's very troubling to people who work there.
Yeah, Catherine, your reaction to these very public calls out in the open, the president calling on his attorney general to prosecute his perceived political enemies?
Well, the reason why these prosecutors are traumatized, not because it's a tradition, it is so highly unethical for a prosecutor to choose people to prosecute for no reason other than, my boss hates them. You choose crimes. You choose cases that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt and let the chips fall where they may, as long as the facts and the evidence show it. But to just go after people just because they are perceived to be an enemy of the person who appointed you is just not what you do as an ethical prosecutor.
Do you have confidence that these prosecutors will hold the line?
Well, we have resignations, and the ones who don't hold the line will either be fired or not. But it's your duty as a prosecutor, particularly if you're senior. It's one thing to say I was young, I didn't know what I was doing. But to say my boss made me do it does not play if you're someone as senior as the high-ranking people who are in DOJ.
Mark, the DOJ is supposed to be independent. The judicial branch is supposed to serve as a check and balance on the executive branch. We are seeing that in some of the lower courts. But take a look at this. The White House has won 18 times with cases that made it to the Supreme Court since January. Only 2 losses. The Trump administration is on a 15-case winning streak, with their last shadow docket loss being back in May. Could that track record, do you think, be why the president is feeling so emboldened and is feeling he can make these statements publicly?
Probably, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of mechanisms within basically the Trump-friendly world, whether it's the Republican Party, whether it's his own administration, the Justice Department, whether it's, as he perceives it, the Supreme Court, that have given him a lot of confidence to be able to basically do what he wants. I mean, I think the thing that happens here is, look, the DOJ sounds, by all intents and purposes, like a total mess. I mean, Trump can say what he is saying, and it can sound, highly irregular, obviously deeply unethical. I mean, you choose your words, but ultimately, you do need prosecutors who will make these cases. Many of them have left. Many of them have been fired. Many of them are quitting. Many of them want nothing to do with this. And if you happen to find prosecutors who are willing to do the bidding here, ultimately the system of justice in this country relies on facts, relies on bringing a case, relies on going in a courtroom and not committing perjury. And I mean, the actual details of bringing a case and getting a prosecution are extremely complicated, rightly. And it's not just a president of the United States, strange as it is, spouting off the way he is. So, look, I mean, there is a big disconnect between the president's words and what actually happens during prosecutions. And I think that hopefully will be the center that holds here.
Federal prosecutor Eric Siebert resigned Friday under pressure. And Catherine, you brought this up. This was the man who had the Letitia James case in his court. And our understanding is he said there wasn't a crime to pursue there after looking at the evidence. Now, he resigned. The president says no, he was fired. With so much happening, Catherine, help us understand how dangerous this is for our democracy.
It's very dangerous because if you do have prosecutors who will just ignore the facts and just present a case to the grand jury that they know they cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt or even have probable cause. You're hoping that the grand jury will see through that and not bring an indictment. But if they don't see through that and do bring an indictment, then you've basically messed up someone's life. Eventually, yes, the court will see that and dismiss the indictment. But meantime, you have had your life destroyed. You've hired an attorney. And it's very frightening. It's like a star chamber. You just people being chosen not because they have actually committed a crime or we have been able to prove they committed a crime. It's just because they're perceived to have been the enemy or against whoever the person is. And in this case, the president appointed you as the prosecutor.
Allegations that may or may not actually support any sort of case. And there are allegations of mortgage fraud involving Republicans. We don't hear about that at all. That doesn't seem to concern Trump, whether it's about Ken Paxton in Texas, the Texas Attorney General, or there have been reports about people in his administration as well. Is so clear what he's trying to do here, but Evan makes a great point. If they do move forward, will any jury actually think that this is legitimate?
And Tia, this post on Saturday night came after, at the end of the week, last week, on Friday night, the president, as he said in that post, firing a U.S. attorney, by the way, who he put in place, right, who is pretty open about being a Republican and a Trump supporter.
A Trump supporter, correct.
Fired him because he didn't bring charges against Letitia James. I just want to read what the president said about Eric Siebert. Today, I withdrew the nomination of Eric Siebert as U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia when I was informed that he received the unusually strong support of two absolutely terrible sleazebag Democratic senators from the great state of Virginia. So just to put a finer point on this, the reason that he is saying, the stated reason that he is given, isn't because this guy didn't go after Trump's opponents. It's because they had support from two Democrats.
But also, I mean, just for the viewers at home, you need the support of your senators for nominations to go to the floor.
That's the way it works.
So that's the way it works. And Virginia just happens to have two Democratic senators. So, you know, you have to get those senators on board no matter what, or they have the, you know, the blue slips that they can stop the nominations from going forward.
And Trump wants to get rid of that now,
right,
so he'll have more power to put in his attorneys.
But quite frankly, there's bipartisan support for that Senate kind of practice, if you will. The other thing I wanted to bring up is just what Trump likes to do is put the pressure on others. And then they get put in the weird position of deciding, are they going to choose their loyalty to the president or perhaps their loyalty to their codes of ethics and the standards and practices in the Constitution. And I think it's really interesting in that Truth Social post, putting all the pressure now on Attorney General Pam Bondi, who, again, I covered her in Florida. She's a former prosecutor. She's a former state attorney general. She's one of the few, not all of Trump's top cabinet officials came qualified. She actually does, whether you agree with her politics or not. But now she is now having to make these tough decisions, not just about the merits of the case, but things that could influence her career way after Trump is out of office.
What are you hearing about that?
Well, I mean, look,
the pressure on her.
The pressure is definitely on her publicly. We don't think that she's in any danger. Obviously, when this first came out, the first question was, oh my God, is she in trouble, right? And people inside the Justice Department really wondered whether the president was threatening to fire her. And you saw him quickly follow that up, and he said this morning that he believes she's doing a great job. So the pressure is absolutely on her and on Todd Blanche, who is her deputy, who, of course, was the president's former personal lawyer.
Well, and sometimes when he says she's doing a great job, that's even more pressure.
That's even more.
I want to take a step back, Stephen, as you are so brilliant at, and just show, because we say this almost every week, there's so much coming at us. We're drinking from a news fire hose. But just recently, on this particular topic of what the president has done, I just want to look at it in its entirety. Not in its entirety, actually, just some of the actions. He urged the Attorney General to criminally charge political opponents, which we've been talking about. The Pentagon just demanded that the press, reporters, sign a pledge restricting their reporting. The prosecutor, as I mentioned, was fired for not indicting Letitia James and replaced with the president's former personal attorney. Speaking of the media and sort of having more control, TikTok is a hugely powerful and influential media platform in this country, and they're trying to get it away from the Chinese and looking at some of his allies like the Murdochs and the Ellisons to buy it. We all, of course, talked about the FCC chair publicly pressuring ABC to fire Kimmel, the president's attempt to sue the New York Times for defamation, and the president wanting the Supreme Court to allow him to fire a member of the Federal Reserve. This is like in the past week.
Yeah, this is a president who increasingly looks like he's in a hurry to impose maximum power as quickly as possible at a moment when, in the first year of his administration, he traditionally has maximum power. So I think that is very notable. The question, to your point about Bondi and some of these other government officials, even for the Trump loyalists, does there come a point when people have to make a choice between, as you were saying, the oath of the Constitution, their future political careers? We saw in the Charlie Kirk memorial this weekend, certainly a movement towards the future by the MAGA movement. At one point, Trump isn't going to be the defining force of the MAGA movement. So does the politics shift on this? We had a story this weekend that grocery prices keep going up. Is that what the American people care about more than the president consolidating his own personal power? Was that really the reason why his voters sent him back to Washington? Were they angry at the choices they had?
People are absolutely terrified working for Trump, and you're seeing an exodus. You've seen them before, and you're going to see it now. Because he's creating a situation where fundamentally your job is to be a henchman. And that's not what people signed up for. Even if you're a loyalist to Trump's ideological project, I want to make this clear. As much as I disagree with it, you can go to work for Trump and say, I'm here to implement right-wing policy. Policy that you and I would find detestable, evil, maybe even criminal and unconstitutional. Right? But they're going there to implement a series of policies. We're going to go there to help the rich and screw the poor and help improve the elite dominance of white rich people and throw black people and brown people into jail and out of the country. And you're proud of that. There are people who are proud of supporting a project of white supremacy. Right? But now Trump is saying, no, it's actually not even just about a project of ideological right-wing policy. No, you're here to specifically be my personal henchman. And I think for some people, they probably don't want to do that. And we're ignoring the people who were just career public servants, who have been there, say, back before Trump was president, were there the first time, did their job, right? Like I'm going to keep doing it. But the difference this time is I'm not just implementing the policies and the priorities of the president that happens to be serving, whether I agree with them or I disagree with them, which is what a public servant does. I am a henchman, and I can see a big difference. Obama, even Bush, look, I was critical of Bush and his Patriot Act. I don't get the sense that Bush specifically used the DOJ to go after his political enemies. He violated the rights of every American, but I don't think he used it as his henchman organization in the way Donald Trump is doing.